Balanced on a knife-edge ridge, this city should have fallen. Earthquakes, storms, centuries. Today, how Machu Picchu's engineers outsmarter earthquakes and floods. They built a flawless city on a razor-thin Andean spine, and it still stands. Many visitors reach for mystical explanations, but the real story is smarter, more useful, and surprisingly modern. In this episode, we're unlocking the practical tricks that kept Machu Picchu alive and what they mean for travelers and food lovers right now. Stick with me for 3 core secrets: precision stonework that sways, not shatters, terraces that feed people while draining mountains, and a water system so elegant it turns gravity into a gentle servant, plus one cultural twist that ties everything together. Imagine building with giant stone Lego, where every block is custom cut for its exact neighbor. That's ashlar masonry. Perfectly shaped stones fitted so tightly they don't need mortar. And that's the point. No mortar means nothing brittle to crack. Instead, the stones grip, slide a hair, and settle back, turning seismic energy into a controlled wiggle rather than a catastrophic break. Look closely at the signature trapezoids, doors and windows narrower at the top, wider at the base, and the gently inclined walls that lean inward. Those shapes lower the center of gravity and help the structure hug the mountain during a quake. Interlocking joints with faces polished to mate and edges beveled to guide movement act like a giant puzzle designed to flex without failing. Modern shake table tests on similar stone assemblies show that these slanted, interlocked forms outperform rigid brick and mortar walls when the ground starts dancing. And yes, the Incas didn't need duct tape. Stone geometry was their shock absorber. When you walk through the Sun Temple or peek at the Royal District, check the joints. You'll see hairline seams so perfect you could slide a credit card along them and feel the friction. Here's a curiosity to pocket for later. Notice a tiny ledge or an intentionally unfinished face on some stones. That isn't sloppy work. It's a subtle cue for controlled failure. Edges designed to crack off first so the core stays safe. We'll come back to why that detail matters for preservation. Those sweeping green steps aren't just pretty, they're multitaskers. Terraces stabilize the slope and grew food at the same time. Each bench is a layered cake, big stones at the bottom for structure, then smaller rock, gravel, sand, and finally rich topsoil. Rain soaks down, filters through, and drains away, so the slope doesn't waterlog and slump. The result is engineering you can taste. Terraces create microclimates, warm, cool, damp, dry, so farmers could raise a diversity of crops. High-altitude potatoes and oca up top, heat-loving maize a bit lower, quinoa and peppers where the sun reflects off stone. That diversity shaped local cuisine. Think hearty stews, earthy tubers, and chicha corn beer, while also buffering against bad weather. The engineering preserved both foundations and food systems. When those layers are damaged or repaired incorrectly, trouble starts. Archaeologists across the Andes have documented terrace failures where original drainage was blocked or replaced with uniform compacted dirt. Without the stone, gravel, sand filter, water can't escape, soil saturates, walls bow, and a crescent-shaped scar creeps across the hillside. It's a conservation pitfall. Well-meaning fixes that ignore the original recipe can quietly set up the next collapse. File this with the stonework teaser. Those sacrificial edges and layered drains are part of the same philosophy. Let small things give way so the big thing survives. We'll connect the dots with water in a moment. Machu Picchu's engineers treated water like a precious, unpredictable guest. Welcome it, guide it, never let it run wild. They captured a mountainside spring, routed it into impeccably carved stone canals, and stepped it down through a line of fountains, about 16 in sequence, so every household had clean, controlled flow. Everything is gravity-fed and tuned by slope. Gentle gradients keep water moving just fast enough to stay clean, not so fast it erodes the channels. Small drops between fountains aerate the flow, while stone basins act as mini settling tanks to trap silt. Overflow paths and hidden drains bleed off storm surges before they build pressure. The payoff? People had reliable water, ceremonial spaces stayed pristine, and, crucially, the slope stayed drier, slashing landslide risk. And here's where culture and engineering braid together. Water features weren't just pretty or symbolic. They were instruments of resilience. Near sacred stones like the Intihuatana, careful alignments and ritual uses reinforced a mindset: manage cycles of sun and rain, respect flow, design for balance. Call it sacred engineering. By embedding practical infrastructure in ritual life, maintenance became meaning, so people kept the system working. Remember that tiny ledge from the stonework? Water makes the reason crystal clear. Those small protrusions and slightly unfinished edges act like sacrificial breakpoints and drip lips. In heavy rain, they shed water away from joints and relieve stress. If anything fails, it's the expendable edge, opening a safe path for drainage while the core remains intact. That's controlled failure, and it's a preservation superpower. 3 big takeaways. First, flexible stone construction, trapezoids, inclined walls, and interlocking ashlar turns earthquakes into motion the buildings can survive. Second, terraces are structural sponges, layered soils that stabilize slopes while creating microclimates and feeding people. Third, water control. Springs, channels, and fountains keeps the city clean, the slopes dry, and the system resilient. Tie them together with culture, and you get a city that maintained itself for generations. So when you visit, look beyond the postcard view. Trace the hairline joints with your eyes. Notice how terrace steps sit above stone drains. Listen to the fountains and imagine how food, ritual, and engineering wove daily life together on this ridge in the clouds. One spicy but friendly ask: preservation matters. Stay on the paths, resist the urge to rearrange a stone for a photo, and if you ever join a volunteer project, insist on the original terrace lettering. Sometimes less really is more. If this surprised you, tell me in the comments which Machu Picchu myth you want busted next.